Welcome to Insight Builder channel, large language model automators, Python experts, and my dear friends. Introducing composable and reusable prompts. Reusing the prompts and the template that works for you. What challenges is solved? You must have come across prompt engineering, and in prompt engineering, the major challenge is that for every task or every activity you want to do, you have to write the prompts manually. Or even if you have the prompt saved, you have to copy paste it and you have to do some modification. That is the challenge that is getting solved with this reusable prompts. So what will happen is you can create a kind of a structure or a skeleton prompt, and in that skeleton prompt you can add additional details. So I'll be showing you how it works. It's a little bit difficult to explain to you what is happening rather than it's easier to show you. So what will happen is we can use the prompt in kind of a loops where you can automate it on a list of items. You can use it in an application if you are going to change it regularly. If you are going to get the input from someone and if that is going to change the prompt, then the prompt template is very, very useful. And you can actually create parts of the prompt and you can reuse the parts of it. So you'll be seeing how it works. And here there are some of the ideas that it has been provided, like how to reuse. You can create main templates and then prompts based on the application. The main template prompts, that is based on your application. Then you can create subparts. And once these subparts or the templates have been created, then you can try to reuse it. So we will be, this particular step that you see here, I'll be showing you how it is being done in the example. So here is the implementation with the prompt pipeline. In order to implement this prompt, reusable prompt in LangChain, there is actually one new primitive that has been added, that is pipeline. So it is under LangChain prompts.pipeline, and you can get it. The class name is pipeline prompt template. So what the pipeline prompt template takes is here. So this is the overall information that the pipeline prompt template will require. So it will require the complete. So here, if you see here if you take a look at it, just give me a moment. So in this example that you see here, we see three different prompt templates that has been created using the prompt template class, prompt template primitive, that is the QA main prompt template. So that is created here. This is the main kind of a skeleton which has three inputs: introduction, example QA, and start. So these are three parts of the main prompt. So you see the prompt itself is segregated into parts of it, and then we create separate introduction prompt here. So here is the introduction prompt that we are creating. So you are impersonating a person is the introduction prompt, and then there is the example Q&A. So here we say the example Q&A prompt, and then similarly we have the final start. So this prompt is now do this for real. So this is an example that has been taken from LangChain book itself, LangChain notebooks, and it has been shown to you guys here. So what we are going to do next is that I believe you love practicing. So we are going to have a lot of practice in this, and you don't need to have large language models involved in this. So you are not going to spend any tokens. You are just going to understand how the inputs and the prompt templates work with each other. I believe that you like this content. Do leave a like and share it with others. Subscribe to my channel for further updates on large language models and Python related library ecosystem. With that said, let us go to the browser. If in case you are new to large language models and LangChain, etc., you can take a look at this particular playlist where I introduce Vertex AI large language model as well as Bard API in this series of videos and integrate that with LangChain. So I have done a lot of other videos also with LangChain and ChatGPT and OpenAI models. You can take a look at that playlist also in my channel. With that said, let us jump to the LLM chain. So this is the this is actually the LLM chain that I was trying to understand to use with the prompt pipeline. So just give me a moment. In the meantime, I have this particular notebook has been created with little bit of a modification. So as I always say, that practicing has to be done by using the examples that is provided by the developers to begin with, and then you have to change the entire example for your needs. So in that way you can learn better. So this particular example starts with the example that we saw in the PDF, the presentation here, and then what will happen is I'll be showing you another example where I implemented different kind of an idea. Okay, so here is the prompt composition. That this is the notebook that introduces in LangChain how is a prompt composed. So here if you see that the final prompt, the pipeline prompt template, this pipeline prompt template is the the arrangement of 3 different parts, that is introduction, example and start. So these 3 parts are arranged using this list of tuples, that is introduction, example and start. This introduction, example and start has to match with the inputs that you created in the prompt template. Keep that in mind. And then each of these inputs will have its own prompt templates. So that is how the composable prompt has been created. So each of these inputs, like for an example, the introduction has its own prompt template, the example Q&A has its own prompt template, and finally the start template has its own input. So with all that said, we have the final pipeline prompt template instance, which contains all the necessary parts of the prompt. So introduction, example and start. What we are going to do right now is that we are going to go to the Jupyter notebook, which contains all the same code that you saw in the example in this LangChain example, and we are going to dive a little bit deeper and understand the attributes and the functions that these prompt pipeline and prompt templates can do. So let us begin. Let us begin by the QA main template. The moment you create the QA main template, and if you try to look at the QA main prompt input, you can see that it will have the inputs as main prompt input variables. If you give it a moment, in case of Jupyter notebooks, the available options will automatically get populated. So that is one of the benefits that you can actually see. You see that, so it can populate like that. If you give it a second or so, and you'll see that we have the 3 inputs, like introduction, example, Q and start. Like this, you have to understand what kind of input and what kind of output you are going to expect. This is one of the ways of practicing and understanding what goes into the frameworks like LangChain, or there are other frameworks also like Promptify, and you have GPT Llama Index, that is GPT Index now. So all these are frameworks around the large language models, but these frameworks are written in pure Python. So they are basically class templates around the actual methods and actions that you can perform. You can actually dive deeper into the code also. That is one way of learning it better, because sometimes so for an example, if you take this particular notebook, it actually explains to you how the prompt works, how the prompt output works. But in this discussion, what we are going to do is, after explaining how the prompt works, I will also try to implement that inside the LLM chain, and then finally get the output from the large language model. So all that is possible. So if you come down here, so here I am giving the input inside the LLM chain by using the QA pipeline prompt, and then I am getting the output. I will be explaining what is going on here, but I am just giving you a brief about what to expect in another 5-10 minutes. Sorry about the disturbance. So let us continue. And let's go back to the top. So you saw how to look at the prompt template inputs. And next I am creating subprompts. The subprompts for introduction, example QA and start. So the subprompt for introduction, I am telling that, okay, you are a person, you are impersonating a person. this person can be the input that you want to provide. It could be any notable person that you want, or it could be something that you have created fictionally. So if you have created fictionally, then you need to give a lot more information. So that was already discussed. So if you go into this particular discussion on self AI clone, as well as there was one more discussion, the kind of a discussion that we discussed in this video also. If you take a look at that, you will understand a bit better how to impersonate, not actually impersonate. You can try to take the styles of the person, and you can or information about the person, and you can give it as a context, and you can get the output. So that is one of the things that you can do. That is introduction, QA, prompt, and template that you are doing. And here is the example. So here, like, you must have come across 0 shot, single shot, 5 shot examples, and there are various primitives already available in LangChain which can actually give you the example selectors as well as the output passes. Here what is happening is you are specifically enabling the prompt itself to become an example. So this is one of the key aspects of composable prompt. So you will see that in action in a couple of minutes. And finally, we have this particular start activity where we give the final input and then we expect an answer out. So this is the start. And now we are going to bring all these things together: introduction, example, QA, and start into this particular array of list of tuples. And then we are going to send it into pipeline prompt template primitive. So here you see the final prompt and the pipeline prompt. So this is the list of prompts that you are going to give as input, and the QA main prompt. This is the structure. So this is kind of a skeleton I was telling to you in the beginning. So this is the skeleton onto which these prompts gets attached, and the final prompt gets created. So the final prompt, the QA pipeline prompt, will have person, input, example, Q&A. All these things are inputs of each of these prompts. So person comes from this introduction, example Q and example A comes from example QA template, and the input comes from start QA main template. And all these things becomes input for the QA pipeline prompt. Okay, now hold on. So this is where the example that this LangChain notebook ends. What I am going to do next is I am going to create another one series of templates. Okay, so here I'm going to almost mimic whatever the LangChain example has given. Only thing is I have changed the names and I have tried to change the prompts that I'm giving. Okay, and I'm also adding some additional input variables. So till this, I believe that you understood what I've explained. If you have not understood, try to review the example notebook. This example notebook will be already committed to the GitHub repo, and the repo link will be provided to you. So you can open this example notebook in Colab or in your own Jupyter environment. So you don't need to worry about that. You can review the code once again, and you can see how is the output. Now, next step, what you are going to do from here. So I will actually create a additional example. So that should help you guys to understand better. So this is an additional example. So in this additional example, we are still going to have a similar kind of a skeleton. So this is the main skeleton where the task, the example task, and the start template is created. And then we have the introduction task template. So introduction, I am introducing that you are an elite character given a job. So this is the introduction template. And so you see the introduction prompt has character and job, this character and job. And then I am also giving it an example, like how we saw it in the earlier example. Here is an example of the task. So I say given task and given solution, and you see the input is given solution and given task. And then the main, now you get on with the below task, and I give the task and I give the solution. And finally, I create the complete pipeline. So using the same kind of a setup, I use task, example task, and start. Okay, the main challenge which you guys will face when I am using similar kind of a variable. So I'm using a lot of similarly named variable like task, example task, etc. And again, if I'm going to use any variable as task inside this prompt, then it will fail. So ensure that you don't use any variable names again. So you should not repeat the variable names. I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. What I mean to say is, so for an example, in this main skeleton task, I have taken a variable called as task. And in the subtask, for an example, in this introduction task, instead of job, if I actually make it as task, then this will not work. So let me, I want you guys to try it out, okay? Change this variable from job to task and try to execute these series of steps and see what kind of final output you get and whether you are able to execute it. So just take a look at that. You will understand what I'm trying to say. And then once I create all these things, once I send it through the pipeline prompt template, you see that I have created the complete prompt. So there is going to be 5 different inputs. In this case, the earlier prompt, it was 4 inputs. In this case, it's 5 inputs. So as you can see, you can create any number of inputs you want. And also all these inputs can be changed on the go. So this is one of the major benefit. You might be thinking, Kamal, you don't need to create all this prompts. We can use Python's literal, string literal, and we can do this anyway, right? The point here, what the point we are trying to make here is, for an example, this is the next step. So now we created 2 different prompts, right? So you see there's an example that is provided here. So this is the first prompt that we created, the QA pipeline prompt. This is task pipeline prompt. This is the second example. I'm talking about the first example right now. This first example is at the top. That is before this. This is the first example, right? I'm going down and you see I'm creating the prompt. I mean, I am filling the prompt with the data and I'm filling the person name, example question, example answer, and then I'm asking the final question that what's your favorite social media site? And this is how the prompt gets filled. So you are impersonating Neil Armstrong and here is an example of an interaction. So obviously Neil Armstrong favorite vehicle will be rocket. And okay, I don't know in fact. And now do this for real. So we are asking what is your favorite social media site. I'm pretty sure Neil Armstrong will not be able to answer it. But at the end of the day, this is an example, right? Next, the same thing, okay, but what we are going to do is instead of QA pipeline prompt, we are going to use task pipeline prompt. That is the second example that I was talking about. And in this case, I'm again filling. So I'm filling the character, I'm filling the job, I'm filling the given task and the given solution. And then I'm giving the output. So I'm telling, okay, write a function palindrome that takes a string as input and returns true or false. So this is the question that I'm asking. And you see the entire prompt is getting filled. So you are elite math is given a code. Here is an example of a task. So then it goes down and get on with the below task and write a function. So this is how the prompt gets automatically created. This is all fine. So as I already told, you can actually use string literals to do all this stuff. The key point here is what string literals cannot do is it cannot actually remove a part of something that you have already created and put it somewhere else. So this is the third example. So let me actually make a third example. And in this example, if you see, this is actually called as compose prompt. Okay, and in this compose prompt, okay, first of all, there is a couple of mistakes here. Okay, what I want to clearly mention here is that I am creating new pipeline prompt. You see this, I am creating a new pipeline prompt called task compose prompt, and this new pipeline prompt will still have the same skeleton like the task main prompt. So if you come up here, the task main prompt has the skeleton. Yeah, this one. The task main prompt has the skeleton task, example task, and start. In this task main prompt, what I'm trying to do is instead of giving the task, I'm going to give the introduction that we gave for the QA, introduction for the QA prompt. So introduction for the QA prompt is here. So I'm just shifting here because it's easier to explain. So you see, this is the introduction to QA prompt that we gave. So you're impersonating a person. And now once you do that, and now you actually come and check the prompt, you will see that there is only 4 variables, that is given task, person, given solution, and input. So basically we have created a prompt, we have created a sub prompt, and we have used it in a different pipeline. So this is the key aspect of composable prompts. So you can create small prompts, and you can use that same prompt in multiple different prompts, multiple different bigger skeleton prompts, or framework prompts. It's better to say skeleton prompts, because we are already using frameworks for LangChain like libraries. So skeleton prompts will be better. This is the key aspect of using making the prompts reusable. And this particular aspect we couldn't be covered in this example, because they had introduced the key aspect of the pipeline prompts, but the usage, the application is it was not covered there. So I felt that it needs to be covered. So for when you guys are creating any application, when you guys are thinking about new products with this idea, then you can implement it with these. And finally, this is where the actual, here what I'm doing is I'm using the QA pipeline prompt. That is the first example, the example that was given by LangChain. I'm using that prompt only, and I'm creating LLM chain. So if you are new to LLM chains, take a look at LangChain library documentation. It's pretty simple. You will need a LLM and you will need a prompt template. Two things is what you require, and then you will have the input keys. So LLM input keys as well as the pipeline prompt input keys will be similar. Okay, and then once you give that, this is how you have to initiate the LLM chain. You have to provide the dictionary of inputs, the various inputs, and along with that you have to provide the outputs also. With that you have to provide the outputs also. Once that is done, you will see the output is provided. So here the answer is provided as text. So these are the 4 inputs that we provide, and this is the text, that is the output finally. Here if you see, I have created, this is the input, this is the question that we wanted to ask finally. But before that, we want the LLM to impersonate Barack Obama, and the example Q&A is, when did you study in Harvard? And Barack Obama would have replied 1991, and this is an example Q&A. And then we ask to the LLM that when is your birthday? Okay, and then the output August 4th, 1967 is given as the output. So same way you can try with Henry Kissinger. Henry Kissinger is another one important, famous Harvardian. You can check it out in the Wikipedia, and the same thing. So here I'm asking something different. So how was it to study in Harvard? And you see Henry Kissinger gives a very diplomatic answer that I was a very good student. Obviously, every Harvard student is a very good student, and for that matter, every college student is a very good student. And finally, you can actually try it out with various pipelines, and also see what kind of inputs and outputs you can change in these prompt pipelines. And most importantly, one thing I have not tried here, that is to create a list of person names, list of job, list of tasks, etc., and try to run it through this pipeline template and see what kind of output you get, and how and you can actually experience the power of automating the prompts like this. As I was again telling in the discussion, the main use case is that you can automate it on a list or any of the Python primitives, and you can use it in an application which is going to take the inputs. So for an example, if you go to the browser, I had been discussing about the various ways of integrating with the GUI. So here you see a couple of videos I made it on PySimple GUI, and there are other videos where I made the interaction of LLM with regular services like Slack, Telegram, etc. So in those applications, when you are going to have multiple people, so you might have an user. So user inside the Slack application who is chatting, and you might have a series of chats that the user has already done. You can take that and you can use it as a context, or you can use it as an example Q&A, and then you can give the input that what is the next output that the user might, what will be the next question the user might ask. So such kinds of novel applications can be created. Creative is the limit right now. Most importantly, you don't need to worry about the syntax. Yes, you need to maintain the grammatical nature of the English language. However, you don't need to worry about the when you're writing these inputs that I'm talking about. But when you're writing the actual prompt templates, you need to follow the syntax that has been provided. Once you understand the syntax, once you get accustomed to the convoluted way of the prompts are getting, the inputs are moving between the various templates. Once you understand that, once you see what is going on, I mean, see in the sense you have to see physically the output, the data, and you have to change it, and you have to again see the output. So programming is done best by looking at the inputs as well as the output. So in that way you can find the patterns, and then you can learn and code better. Okay, so all that's well and good. Now I believe that you have understood the overall idea of prompt templates and pipeline prompts, and I believe that you will have learned one or two important things from this particular video. Do leave a like and do share your comments, so that if you have any questions, if you want me to cover something more specific, I can look into that and I can get back to you. There have been a couple of couple of questions on the various vector stores that is already available, and doing the embedding, etc. I have already seen these comments, and I'm thinking about making a updated video also. So stay tuned for that. Do subscribe to my channel for further updates. With that said, I would like to leave this video with 4 words, that is practice, 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 practice. See you guys. Have a great time.